I'm back with another episode of Life Stories Unscripted podcast. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Viviane, and I'm a doula, mama coach, and a breastfeeding specialist. And I talk about everything related to preconception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. So if you're a parent or you're trying to be one, this is the podcast for you. So stay tuned. Today I'm talking to Julie Perret, who moved from Czech Republic to New Zealand at 26 years old. And at 30, she decided she's ready for a baby, but she couldn't conceive. So she started looking into it, what might be hindering her. If you have watched some of my previous videos and you enjoy them, please hit the subscribe button so you and me can spread the word together. Last but not least, this video is sponsored by Perfecta Placenta, located in Beverly Hills, which is a placenta preserving company. So if you want your miracle organ to be preserved and get two amazing gifts in the form of a stretch mark cream and a diaper bag, please don't forget to use my promo code Viviane. And for more information, I can be reached via LinkedIn or Facebook under my name, Viviane Shima, or at my Gmail address, which is birthwithviviane@gmail.com. I'm really excited to hear from you. Without any further ado, let's talk to Julie. Thank you for being here today. I know it's evening for you, but I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, me too. Same, Viviane, and thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. So, are we ready? Ready to dive in?
Ready to go in fully.
All right. Well, I briefly mentioned who you are, what you do, and that you had 3 limiting beliefs that were hindering you conceiving a baby. So tell us, please, the 3 limiting beliefs and why they're so important to tame and tackle.
Yeah. So basically, when I was 30, obviously, that's the time when we all want to have a family and have a baby. And my partner at the time wanted a baby, and I just couldn't conceive. So kind of my life became, I was living by the calendar of my periods, and it wasn't even exciting. It was kind of became like a stressful routine. And so I went to see the doctors, and one said that I may not be pregnant at all. And the other doctor was better. He said that he can get a stone pregnant. So I managed to get pregnant through IVF, through second IVF. But after delivery, I got very sick as well. And that's kind of prompted me to look what is wrong with me, why is all of this happening? It didn't make sense because I knew that I was born healthy. And in my family, no one had this problem. So I knew that it's definitely not a genetic, excuse like doctors used to say. Right. So the 3 limiting beliefs, what I discovered when I started to study neuroscience, neurobiology, neuroplasticity, and the psychology. So the 3 limiting beliefs. When I was 7, the first limiting belief was my mom went to see the card predictor. And the card predictor told to my mom that my delivery is going to be a disaster. It's going to be very painful and difficult. So when children are in age of 7, so basically from they are born until about age of 5 or 6, they are in very low brain waves. It's a theta by brain wave. And their analytical mind is not developed. So everything you tell them, it just straight away syncs to their nervous system, to their subconscious mind. Then from age, basically from 7 to 9, they move to alpha brain waves, which are a bit higher, but they are still, it's still meditative brain waves. So they are still very suggestible to information. And then from the age of 10, then they move to beta and they start more and more develop their analytical mind. So when it's 7-year-old, my mom told me that I'm going to have very difficult delivery. It's going to be very painful.
Oh my God.
Without realizing that, I just took the suggestion and it went straight to my nervous system. And she was like repeating it from time to time without it wasn't like from her attention. She was just saying what card predictor said. So that was the first. So basically our mind is designed to protect us, to keep us safe and to protect us. So basically at the age of 7, I told to my mind, okay, you're not going to get pregnant because it's very painful.
Right.
So that's the fear of going through the pain.
Right.
The second belief was I did it myself. So when I was about age 9, 8, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
my parents always arguing about money. It was never enough money, and they were always arguing about money. And I see how painful it was. And I just said to myself, I will never have a child until I will be financially free. And of course, as we know, by the age of 30, 90% of people are not financially free. And especially because we carry limiting mindset beliefs about money. So that was the second, basically, belief. And the third one was I had kind of, I would say, traumatic experiences with my dad, because it was lack of love, and he was kind of expressing his anger at me. So like now I understand that I feel grateful for it now, because through that journey I learned who I am now. But when I was a child, I just formed that belief that I'm not loved and I'm not enough. And when I was at the age about 14, 15, 16, I went into problems with eating. So I didn't want to eat anything. My weight went back to 40 kgs, and I was perceiving myself as fat all the time, which I basically wasn't. And that was the third belief. So when you're pregnant, you're going to put on weight, because my habit, it was crazy. Like, it's been a year now that I don't have a scale at home, and I don't need to weigh myself, because I know that I'm enough. I don't need to know the number on the scale. It's not important. But basically for 40 years, well, from the age of 14 or 16, I was weighing myself every day. So I had to put on the scale and count, like, if I put 1 kilo, if I dropped half a kilo, it was obsession. Mm-hmm. So that was the 3 limiting beliefs. So now you're at the age of 30. You consciously want to have a family, you understand. I mean, delivery is hard. You understand you're going to put a bit on weight. Consciously, you know it, but 95% of who you are, it's your subconscious. So this is your nervous system, and your mind is telling you, okay, you told me you don't want to be fat. You told me you want to have money, and you told me that it's painful. I'm not going to get pregnant.
Right.
And so the doctors, they couldn't find anything. It was nothing wrong. And then they said, oh, you're just, you can have kids with different partners, but both of you just can't. And it was just because, luckily, the other doctor that we've seen at the same clinic, he said with such suggestion, and I just opened my mind, that he said, I can get a stone pregnant. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, oh, wow, he can get a stone pregnant. So basically, I opened my suggestion, and it overrode the belief. So I did get pregnant. Because, but I wasn't aware of the beliefs that I had. So that's after, through studies, I discovered, how many people don't need to go through IVF, because majority of people go through IVF, and they don't realize that it all goes to our beliefs from our childhood. Because that's basically, we create, like, every thought we think, we create a neurocircuitry in our brain. So in my brain, it was for different events, your brain have like a neurocircuitry. So every time it was a baby, the brain is like, oh yeah, this is your experience. You're coming back to that painful experience. Yeah, you're not going to get pregnant.
Right. That is mind blowing how it all connects, how you've been taught something, or you mirrored something, or you've heard something from your parents, and it's ingrained in you, and then you reach an age where you decide, okay, I'm ready for a family, I'm ready to have a baby, but you're almost stuck in a time loop from when you were 7, preventing you from conceiving.
Yeah, that's right, because by the age of 35, who we are, it's the set of memorized emotional experiences. So this is 95% of who we are. So if we try to fight with 5% of logic, 95% of memorized emotional experiences, we basically just can't do it. The only way is to bring it to conscious awareness. And now you can say, okay, I mean, this is not true, this rubbish, it's not me. So now we can work with it. But if you don't know how, then this is just so like sad, that so many people, they can't get pregnant, and then it becomes kind of not a act of love and passion, but it becomes like act of routine. Today is the 20th of the month, let's do it. Because so that, and then you put yourself even more into fight or flight mode. So
Right.
then you constantly, like, your body is not in a homeostatic state, it's out of balance, and this is why like all diseases are starting. And basically, yeah, so even after when I got pregnant, I actually my delivery was absolute disaster, because I got a midwife, and the midwife, she just took away a epidural from me. So first they had to induce me, because I got very rare condition that they never seen in their history, and they were feared that they're going to lose both of us. So they had to induce me. And on the top of it, I got a midwife who kind of ignored that, and she took a epidural off, and I couldn't deliver because the cord was too short, so I wasn't able to do it. So then, because it was just torture for like 3 hours, and someone came and they had to put the epidural back, cut me, and get her with the forceps. And after that, I got autoimmune conditions as rheumatoid arthritis and other things. It just everything kind of in my life went. It was all over the place, and I couldn't understand what's wrong with me. So this is how.
It was almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you think about it, right? That you were taught something as a child, and you brought that with you to, that you were actually able to get pregnant, you delivered the baby, but because it was such a traumatic experience for you, your mind was just telling you, see, I told you,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have done it. So it's really, this is a vicious cycle. So how did you break it? What happened?
I just break it. So after I got very sick, I tried drugs, but they didn't work for me. And I think, again, talking about beliefs, from my grandmother, I adopted another belief, because she was all natural, all herbs, never took drugs. So for me, when I was going to see the doctors, I already had unconscious beliefs that drugs are bad. So from every drug I took, I had the worst side effect, and I just couldn't do it. So then I had to basically take control in my hands, and I started researching, doing, the different herbs and naturopaths and all of the things. But I kind of was holding it under control, but it wasn't enough. I was still sick. I wasn't happy. It was all just, and every time something was coming. So just like, okay, there must be something else. Right. And that's basically how I started with the personal development, with the mindset, and then neuroscience, neurobiology, to understand. I wanted to understand what's wrong with me. And when I started to put all of these puzzles, started with the pregnancy and my childhood, I'm just like, wow, this is absolutely crazy. This is absolutely crazy, because so many people live basically unconsciously. We do live unconsciously. So our behaviors, it's a set of memorized experience through our childhood, because what our brain is doing, our brain is taking like a camera shots, memorizing the experience, and then sending the chemicals through our autonomic nervous system. And people don't realize that it's autonomic. So it does things without conscious awareness. And that's basically how I discovered many things like that were happening in my life, just by understanding. It's understanding. People don't understand. People don't understand what role mind plays, what role brain plays. And, like with nutrition, you can eat the healthiest food you want. You can take the healthiest vitamins you want. But if you're going to have this limiting beliefs, toxic thoughts, 95% in your autonomic nervous system, it's not going to work. Like, I'm not saying nutrition is not important. It is important, but it is itself not going to help until you dig deeper.
Because you need to believe in it, that it works. And I believe that that's why placebo drugs and placebo in general works. Because if you believe in your mind that you can be healed, that this will help you, you align yourself with that belief, with that thought, and you start, doing these, subconscious, almost positive affirmations to yourself, and it'll come to you, right?
Yeah, that's exactly that, because who we are, that's like the words we tell to ourselves and the pictures we make in our head. And we don't realize that the pictures we make in our head 24/7, rehearsing the same neural circuits, are based on what can go wrong, what else bad can come and happen,
Right.
instead of bringing our perception and just looking at things and taking both sides. Because our perceptions basically are what our perception is a hardwired past experiences in our brain. So we can't even perceive things differently because our brain doesn't have the circuitry how to perceive them differently. This is why we see the world not how things are, but how we are unconsciously.
So in order to change this, do we need a new experience?
You need to create a new experience. Yeah, you create new experience, but it's not enough. Like, that's why people, say, oh, I do meditation, it doesn't work. I do affirmation, it doesn't work. You start with positive thinking, and it's very important, but your positive thinking must be aligned with your subconscious. So as your body feels. So you need to have that feeling of gratitude and love and this elevated emotions in your body. And doesn't matter what your circumstances are. So that's the difficult part, because you can repeat affirmations until you're going to be blue, that's fine. And that's what majority of people do. But then they repeat affirmation and they go somewhere and they react, to that person, because that person triggered some emotional past experiences in their brain. It activated the circuitry, and it's like hamster in a wheel. And then they forget about their affirmation and meditations they did in the morning. They stay
cycle all over
and the cycle. And it's the same, I think, with pregnancy, when so you're so focused on that baby and you try to meditate and do things, but then it doesn't work, and you're just kind of getting upset. Oh, it didn't work, it doesn't work, nothing is working, and you're going back to those unconscious behaviors basically. And the only way is to work with someone who understands it on a deep level, so they can help you to bring it to conscious level. Because when you bring it to conscious level, you kind of go back to your childhood, and then you like hear it and see it and just like, yeah, but I'm not a child anymore, because your mind basically needs a clearer instruction. Right. Your mind listens to words, to powerful, positive words and clear instructions. So it's not enough to say no, not, because it doesn't hear, but it just has to be very dynamic, powerful words. And saying,
not talking in negative sense, but talking in positive sense. What I do want to attract, what I do want to achieve, not like, this is not what I want. This is not what I want to achieve, right?
It doesn't hear not. It doesn't hear words like neural words like not, later, maybe. It doesn't hear these words. It has to have like very, if someone, is trying to get pregnant, just saying things like, my body is a wealth producing machine, I'm phenomenal, I'm going to get pregnant. That's kind of thoughts you want to say, you want to hardwire here. And then you will start to build new circuits, and then your mind is going to say, oh, when you say it's my choice to get pregnant, oh, it's your choice to get pregnant, so okay, you can do that. And it's like stay in the state. So not when you see that you're going back to this unconscious thoughts, you catch yourself. You know how to catch yourself, and you bring yourself back. And that's, I think, it's just not understanding, because people don't understand the function of the brain and the mind and the body connection, and they don't understand that it's autonomic. So you basically can't do anything if you don't understand.
Right. So it acts without our approval, essentially, doing what the body thinks it's right for it, but without our conscious mind and approval, right?
That's exactly that. So see, like with the dieting, for example, that I went when I was 17, I wanted to be very slim, and I was like 40 kilo. And then I started to get sick. So I wasn't able to eat things. And secretly, secretly I wanted to be on diet because it was the instruction that I gave to my mind. So I went from 20, I couldn't eat dairy. And then by the age of 30, I wasn't able to eat almost anything. I was like on such strict diet because everything was just in my diet. If I ate something, it was a reaction.
Right.
And that's because the instruction of my mind, you want to be thin, you need to be on diet, here you go, now you're on diet.
And once you start to deviate from that path, from what your brain thinks it's safe and it wants to keep you there no matter the cost, once you start deviating from that path, it's almost, like the guilt and shame and blame, right? It starts to hit you, and then you essentially go back, even if you realize on some level, this is probably not good for me. This is a little bit toxic. This might be worse, but it's stronger. The unconscious is still stronger.
The unconscious is that's when it comes to emotional intelligence, and EQ is actually most important than IQ. Right. And so the emotional intelligence is basically what majority of people don't understand either. It's all of this emotion of grief, frustration, sadness, disappointment. They ignore them. They ignore them by being busy, by watching TV, by eating chocolate. Like everyone has their coping mechanism, how to
shut it out.
How that's exactly, because it's uncomfortable. You feel it in the body, you don't know what's going on, it's uncomfortable. Okay, let's eat a bar of chocolate, let's have a glass of wine, I'm going to better. And that's those emotions that you need to bring it and feel it again. And once you feel it again, it has to go somewhere. So then you release it. And after that, you straight away put on who you want to be, what you want to have in life. So that's those elevated emotions. That's how you deal with the emotions. And myself, basically, I went completely, that was another reason why I started to study all of this, because I couldn't feel anything. I had so many suppressed and repressed emotions from the childhood, because that's how my mind just learned to deal with the stress. Yep. That when my daughter was like 7, 6, I couldn't share with her. I didn't feel pain anymore or sadness, but I couldn't feel happiness and joy. And that's when something clicked, why I can't feel things, what's wrong with me, because I couldn't share with her, her joy and things like, and that's when I'm just like, okay, it doesn't matter what's happening. I'm just trying to find out what is going on.
And children are amazing in this, that they bring this out in you, because they don't know how to fake anything. They just feel, right? They express it, and they're confused when they look at you and they see that there's nothing behind your eyes, essentially, that it's just
they feel it. They feel it. She always told me, you're not listening, you're not engaged, you're not listening. I was just like, no, I'm listening. But she feels it. But the important thing, like for parents who have kids, is to understand that all the unconscious behaviors they have, their kids, they are mirroring it, because they say in neuroscience there is mirror neurons, and they mirror the behavior of the parents. And I did pick up that I had some of the behavior from my dad that I didn't want to have, because I knew it's not good, but unconsciously I had it. Right. And I had to go back and reprogram, rewire everything back. So it's so important that parents understand, with their kids.
For parents to be emotionally available for their children, but also to allow their emotions to talk to them. Because when you were talking about sadness, disappointment, and I was talking about guilt and shame, those are, or stress, or even fear, those are all emotions. They're very important to our, I think, everyday life and everyday functioning, because they're essentially here to help us. They're here to guide us. They're here. It's our body's mechanism of telling us something. And our body goes, listen, I have to tell you something. I'm afraid. Let's figure it out. And many people think, like you said, that they're antagonistic, that they're bad, that they want to destroy us. So people drink, people eat chocolate, right? People they cope with it with you know, with they're substituting, essentially they're shutting it out, they're keeping busy. So I think it's safe to say that awareness is number one, right? Being aware.
The awareness one is a number one.
Right?
But it's like you're going to be, people are scared of it. I mean, it's just an emotion. If you think about it, emotion, you already lived it. You already done it. You know, it's just because you didn't release it. That's why it's trying to get out, because it needs to get out. But when people, like, we have a rule in neuroscience and it's called 30 to 90 second rule. So if you feel something in your, and I practice it on me, it feels sometimes like coming back. And for 30 to 90 seconds, you're just going to feel it. You're just going to say, okay, now I'm feeling it's either in my chest or in my tummy, like whatever it is in your body. I had a lot in my chest. And you just feel it, you allow it. And you will see, like, within the 30 to 90 seconds, it just literally goes away. And now your body is free to switch on to whatever you want to create. And gratitude, the gratitude is the highest emotion basically in life. And then you feel good. It doesn't come back again. You just feel good. So that's, there is one thing I want to share. I used to have, and I couldn't understand it. Every time I was sitting with my daughter watching TV and just relaxed, you know, fun movie. And I started to feel all of these emotions coming like in my chest. It was like sadness and frustration and all of that. I'm just like, why? It's always when I watch TV, you know, I'm just relaxing watching TV.
It was alone. I'm watching a movie.
I'm watching a movie, you know, and watching a movie and all of this coming. I was just like, okay, what's wrong? And then I found out what was happening. So when I was, again, 7, 8, and I haven't done homework or haven't done something, my mom was always trying to help me and protect me because my dad was the opposite. So I wanted to watch favorite movie on TV, and he would be yelling, no, she can't watch, you know, she didn't do her homework, she's lazy, she's doing whatever he was telling to me. But my mom, she's a very strong woman, so she always like went front. And she just like, no, she's going to watch. And I remembered myself as a child sitting on the couch in fear and tears and watching the movie. Now you got 30 years later, you watch a movie with your daughter. There is no dad anymore, but
just her dad, not you.
Yeah, exactly. And your autonomic nervous system memorized it so many times that it's just a behavior. You just scared. That's happening for you. It's happening now because you see on the couch. It doesn't know that you were 7 and now you're 30. Your mind doesn't understand past, present, future. It just knows now. And that's because it doesn't know that it was past. It was perceiving as a now. Now you watch TV. I don't care if you're 7 or 30. For me, it's now.
Exactly. This is mind-blowing, Julie. Can you tell us what helped you to, because, you know, once we name an emotion, once we name a negative or a limiting belief, we can work with it, right? We can start slowly working with it and eliminate it. But we have to get used to it, right? Because we know it for our whole lives, but it takes time to acknowledge it, first of all. So once we acknowledge it, we can name it, and then we can tame it, and then we can eliminate it, right? But I wanted to ask you, what helped you? Do you have a technique that you can share with us for whoever is watching and might realize, oh my gosh, I might have a belief maybe? What would you suggest? What is your suggestion?
So it takes about 20 days to get the old belief out, and it takes about the same time to prune the new one, to prune the new connection in your brain. So it's about, you can say like 60 days. That's what we know from neuroscience. And it's basically what they can do. So it's good to have, so what is it they want? You know, everyone wants something. So they have a goal, they want something. Right. And now you need to start to listen to your dialogue. What dialogue you have with yourself when you wake up. Like what thoughts you are thinking since you start the day. Are they positive and you're inspired for your day, or they're like, oh my God, it's another Monday. I have to deal with this colleague and I have to drop my kids to school and I'm so tired and exhausted and everything in my day is a mess. So what thoughts? Because there is a neuroscience called Hep's law. So the neurons that are fired together, they are wired together. So that's the dialogue you have with your mind. So what thoughts you're thinking. So now you need to become conscious. That's what helped me. Basically become conscious of what I'm thinking, writing it down. And I'm just looking at it and saying, okay, so I'm not going to say that to myself, like, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? So I'm going to reframe it and I'm going to start, okay, I'm grateful for my day because I choose to live this day as the best day. I choose to be, in a positive mood. I have phenomenal skills. I have phenomenal coping skills. I can do it. So that's really just to become conscious. It's a conscious awareness. And it's hard at the beginning. It's not easy. So I would suggest, like, if someone can do it themselves, they can try do it themselves. It's just basically starting capturing thoughts you have when you wake up and thoughts you have when you go to bed. It's very important because when you go to bed, your subconscious works. It never sleeps. It works 24/7. So if you go to bed and you are worrying about how you're going to pay your mortgage, how you're going to pay your bills, it's wires. It's just wiring all night. And then you wake up with the same thoughts again. So basically, that's why you're running like a hamster in a wheel. So you need to break that neural circuitry and create a new one. And it does require practice. And meditation is very powerful. But if you're going to do the meditation and during the meditation, you're still going to be somewhere else, thinking about everything you need to do.
Laundry after I finish.
Laundry that I have to finish, then you're not going to disconnect. So you're still basically running in the same. And that's why people say that affirmation don't work. They do work, they're very powerful, but there is a step. So the first is just to become conscious of your unconscious thoughts. Catch yourself. Catch yourself. If you start to feeling somewhere in your body, either it's your chest or your tummy, you feel tightness, just it's not long, 30 to 90 seconds. You definitely can find 30 to 90 seconds, even if you're very busy.
And I love that you said that some people think the affirmations don't work. And you said they do work. They're very powerful. But I would say terms and conditions apply, right? We need to create an environment and allow ourselves to be in the creator mood and mindset and mind flow, whatever someone wants to call it, to be able to affirm, right? And I think
that's right.
And I think what you also said that it's a choice. And I think that's a very important word here to say that you have a choice. You can choose. You're not a prisoner of your own body, of your own mind, even though some people think so. Some people are in this victim mentality, and it's, they're not to blame. No one should blame themselves for this.
No.
This is something we saw, we mirrored, we've been taught. It's not us. It's just the circumstances around us. But just as we can change ourselves, we can change our environment. So again,
that's right.
And it's so
it's a choice. And it's like for people good to remember kind of how they can trick their mind. When baby is born, baby has phenomenal confidence. Baby doesn't care what others think of them. Baby one wants to be fed, is just going to cry because they want to be fed. And then as you grow, you start to some people have experienced that love is conditional because their parent might say something. And we start to build all of these stories in our head. And sometimes they are true, sometimes they are not. Because parents, they do for us with their conscious awareness, what they are consciously aware. They're not consciously aware, so they can't do better.
Right.
Because they don't know how to do better, basically. It's like looking back to my dad. I don't know what, experiences he memorized from his childhood. So why he was angry person all his life, that was because of his...
and you bring it. It's generational. It's a generational. Exactly. You bring it onto your child, that child will bring it onto their children without even
Yeah,
realizing it. So this is very, very, very powerful. And yeah,
that's yeah, start journaling, you know, and at the end of the day, I know people like, but it's excuse, it's again excuse, I don't have time, I've got 2 kids, I've got 9 to 5 job, I don't have time. This is excuse, because time, it's not something, when it, more you focus on time, less you're going to have the time.
and it's the fear again, right? The fear is
The
kicking in.
fear.
Right.
Yeah, I was living for 8 years, like on a, it was like I was living by clock.
Mhm.
I was in such bad mindset. And I noticed once that when I was watching the clock, I never had time. But when I disconnected from the clock,
Mhm.
I actually have done more. And I was just like, oh, I still have time. But it's all the dialogue, you know, that's a dialogue that you have with your mind. Like how I changed myself, it was really a journey. It was really a journey. So I started to look at the personal development. And then I realized, okay, so it is my choice, actually. I'm not a victim.
And
And then
it's so powerful what we
that's
can
very
do.
powerful. But I have to say that I do have a very strong will. And that's what some people don't have. So they need to, everyone has a will, but they need to maybe practice that muscle a bit more. So I do have a very strong will. And I just said that I'm going to get to the bottom of it. And then that's what started. I did. I absolutely did. I'm grateful for it. But so you start with the thoughts. What thoughts I want to fire and wire every day. And then before you go to bed, you can check on yourself and say, okay, so where did I went off? You know, where did I react it? Because all of these reactions to the circumstances, they trigger in you your memorized emotional experience. So you activate the same neural circuitry, and that makes you feel certain way, and straight away it's like a thought loop. So you feel, you think, you feel, and then you feel, and it just recreates the same thought, and you just that in that victim mentality. Like I talked to someone and he told me, I can't meditate, and I was just like, is it you can't or you won't? Because there is a difference, you know. If you can't, you are a victim. If you say I will not, then it's choice.
It's your choice, right?
It's your choice. And that's like what feelings, you know, I'm trying to avoid.
Right.
So that person who doesn't want to meditate, there is going to be some feelings that they're afraid of and then they don't want to face. And that's going to be, again, like frustration and fear and sadness and shame and guilt. We all have a lot of guilt because of the condition. There's also want to mention one thing, the difference people mix intuition with gut feeling. People like to say, oh, it's a gut feeling, I'm not going to do it. So your gut feeling is in your gut. It's connected to your automated, memorized emotional experiences. So if you make decision based on your gut, you are basically connected to your limbic emotional brain, which is your memorized experiences. Intuition comes from your heart. When you are connected to your heart is connected, there is in your brain thing called thalamus, and that's on both sides of the brain. It shuts down straight away the limbic brain, which is your fight or flight response, and it connects to your executive brain. And that's when you make decisions coming from your heart. But your heart needs to be open. And that's when your heart is incoherent, your brain is incoherent, and you are incoherent.
So that is essentially the biggest takeaway from today. Listen to your heart. Thank you for this powerful story that you share with us. And you know, I didn't know you before your journey, but I can see how far you've come, and it's in your eyes. It's the energy that you put out there, and I'm sure this has been for so many viewers or listeners so empowering that, you know, they were able to go from disempowerment to empowerment because of what you said, because it is brain-based science. There is science behind it and it works. But again, terms and conditions apply, right? So we need to create this environment to be able to create in it, and then we can move forward. And you know, it's everything. It's from acknowledging the fear or that we have an emotion, to naming it, to taming it, and then to eliminate it. And I think that is it's just, yes, I mean, I've been, you know, I had so many aha moments today while you were talking, because it all clicked. it's like a puzzle. It just clicks. And
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
know this, but you don't know this, but then you say this, and I'm like, oh, like this actually connects. That's wonderful. So thank you so much. But more importantly, please tell us, where can people reach you if they're ready for their own transformational journey?
Yeah, so I have a website, and you can go on my website and book a call, and it's www.infiniteintelligence.coach. You can also email me, and it's julie@infiniteintelligence.coach. I have my podcast. You can listen to my podcast, and it's called Mind Episodes with Julie, and I put every Tuesday in there, so you can listen. I talk on different subjects. It all combined to the brain, so you understand the structure of your brain and how the thoughts, the mind, the brain, how it all fires and wires together. So yeah, I just want to say to anyone who's listening, who's having a problem, try to do it yourself. But if you really see that you can't, find someone. If it's me or someone else, it doesn't matter, but find someone who has experience, because it's not enough to know, it's not enough to read a book. And that's what I say, you can't fix what you don't understand, and you can't heal if you don't feel. That's and it's like to know as well, that we don't have bad emotions. That's what we talked. They are unpleasant emotions that carry important information.
Right. And I love what you said, and I totally agree with you. And I just want to add that my coach said, just because someone has the information does not mean transformation. And it's true, because there's so many things you can find on Google, and how to become this, how to do that in 10 weeks, and I don't know, 5 weeks. But what are we going to do with that if someone doesn't know how to what to do with that information to help them? And I would say that reaching out to you or seeking professional help, because someone has walked that path already and they know what it takes. They know the ups and downs, the in and outs. They know everything. Well, not everything, but as much as they can, and as much as they learn on their journey, they are able to help and guide. And it's not a sign of weakness. I would say it's the opposite. It's the sign of being strong and taking matters into your own hands and choosing to change something. And I think that's the first step, and that's the power, right? That's
the power. I know that a lot of people give up because they had a coach and it wasn't good. Look, myself, I had a few coaches, and some of them, they were not good because they were just telling the programs. They didn't really live it themselves. So it's not like, it's like a baby, if when baby starts to walk and falls, baby doesn't say, oh, I'm not destined to walk. I'm just going to sit here all my life. It does apply to everything. It does apply to everything. So yeah, if anyone has a problem, I would love to help. I offer free consultation. The first consultation is always free, so I can see what people really need, and then I make the best plan that will fit them. But the first consultation is always free.
Wonderful. Well, if anyone's who's watching, reach out to Julie. It's been such a pleasure, Julie. Thank you so much for being here today. And that's it. We're at the end of yet another amazing episode. We talked to Julie today on her 3 limiting beliefs that were hindering her from becoming pregnant. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. If you did, please hit the subscribe button now so you and me can spread awareness on this topic together. If you're a mama, a health coach, or a spiritual healer, and you have a story you would like to share with me, or you know about someone who has a story they would like to share with me and the rest of the world, please reach out to me via LinkedIn or Facebook, where I can be reached under my name, Viviane Shima, or via my email address, which is birthwithviviane@gmail.com. I'm really excited to hear from you. And that's it for me for now. Bye. Stay tuned.